Good shot, kid. I think you got him. Good shot, kid. I think you got him.
Hello there, and welcome back to some more Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Today we're continuing on Let's Play. This is episode 85. In today's episode, it's time to beat the cock. Not literally. It's a triathlon event that is available here in the state of San Andreas. These are playable after Yay Kaboom Boom, and they are only available on Saturday and Sunday, the in-game weekends. Essentially, what a triathlon is it's where you have to do multiple physical activities in order to win. So, each triathlon starts with a swim, followed by a bike ride, and then a run all the way to the end. There is two of these, and the first one starts us off at the Santa Maria Beach. Infinite sprint, strong stamina, and a good cycling skill are all very necessary for this. There's also a couple of other caveats. On the PC version, you can make this harder because if your PC doesn't have particularly good statistics, Carl will swim slower. I believe swimming is tied to the frame rate somehow, and that can be an issue. So, also, if you're playing on the remastered version, Carl swims slower. So, the swimming portion of this, either way, is always a bit of throwaway. Even in this PS2 version, as you can see, I'm being left behind. It's just a case of knowing where the checkpoints are. So, swimming you can throw away. However, fortunately, CJ can cycle a lot faster than most of these guys can. So, Beat the Cock, of course, comes from the Clock and Bell employee that apparently participates in this. He is statistically the fastest competitor in this race, although that doesn't really matter because all of them are pretty darn quick. So, these are a nice little fun distraction away from all the killing and the shooting, although they can be pretty frustrating, as we'll get into. I mean, chief of one, which is the swimming part of this. I should also mention, because I know you're thinking it, shooting a competitor or injuring them in any way instantly gets you disqualified. So, don't even think about brandishing a gun here, killing everyone off, and then taking a small cruise to the finish line. That will not work. So, as you can see, we are coming towards the shore now, which means it's time to jump on the bike. So we've swum all the way over to Flint County. Now we're going to get ourselves on the mountain bike and essentially pedal our way all the way through to San Fierro via the countryside. As I said, the cycling part of this is by far and away the easiest part of this, because CJ's ability to cycle at speed is very noteworthy and very, very good. So, yeah, not much to say about this. Strong cycling skill will avoid you getting thrown off this. You don't really need the bunny hop ability all that much, but I guess you can do it to show off. Also, again, stamina helps you to run quicker and not get worn out as easily. We do have infinite sprint now thanks to the burglar, but I still can't say that word. Burglary side missions, so that was fun. As you can see, I accidentally hit fallen tree there. But yeah, we do have infinite sprint, which is the other bad point of this. So if you do not have infinite sprint, the actual running part at the end can be very difficult. I should actually point out quickly, because I forgot to, these are not required for 100%. Neither of the triathlons are required for 100%, we're simply doing these for fun. However, the next bunch of side missions that you'll see after this video are required for 100% completion. I should have probably led with that, but, you know, gotta make people sweat a little bit, think that they have to go ahead and deal with the triathlons. Although, truthfully, this first triathlon isn't too bad. It's a relative breeze and will take, I think it's about 6 or 7 minutes in total. It also starts raining here, so I end up getting some pretty sick drifts on the mountain bike. Other than that, though, there's not really too many tips you can give to this, other than if you fail, then just simply keep retrying it and eventually do it. I will say I have somehow managed to complete these on the remastered version. I don't even think I did the burglary side mission. However, when I tried to do this casually, when I was doing my 100% playthrough, these were an absolute nightmare without having the infinite sprint. So I do recommend having the infinite sprint. It could just be because this is a PS2 version, and apparently things in the PS2 version were a little bit harder than they were on the subsequent versions, but there you go. Anyways, we are coming to the cycling portion end of this particular sprint, so as soon as we cross this bridge, we are going to be instructed to get off the bike. Now, one thing I'll recommend, although you will have to sort of watch how far you can go, once you hit the bit where it says abandoned bike, it essentially gives you 20 seconds to get off your vehicle. While you can't simply use the bike for the running section, and what you can do is stay on the bike a little bit longer in so you can reach that checkpoint there. Of course, cycling is far quicker than sprinting, even when you have infinite sprint and all the stamina. So yeah, it's just easier to ride the bike to the specific drop-off point and then keep going upwards on your own accord. Speaking of the actual sprint part of this, it's all up the missionary hill from here. Your essential goal at the end of this is to race all the way up to the news station, which sits right on the top of this hill. Running uphill might actually be more of a challenge for CJ in terms of staying ahead of the competitors, which aren't really too affected by gravity, it has to be said, whereas CJ can be a little bit, or at least it seems that way. However, fortunately, up this hill you can make a couple of shortcuts. As you can see, I'll start doing here, sort of running around the grass parts of this. You can make a couple of nice little shortcuts, but hopefully you've had a good cycling section, so you can be well ahead of your competitors here. Indeed, I was. However, this is very much where the infinite sprint comes in handy, because by this point up the hill, CJ would be very, very tired normally, even if you do the tap to sprint sort of infinite function. Speaking of which, tap to sprint in this game, I am almost certain is quicker than simply holding down the sprint button. So that's what I did, is I tapped to sprint the entire way up here. I hope your thumbs don't hate you too much, because if you're using a controller, yeah, this isn't so pleasant on the old thumbs and may cause slight amounts of arthritis. Either way though, we are almost at the end of this triathlon, and it does have to be said, it's not all that long, compared to the next one anyway. So once we've made it around this corner, we're going to race all the way up to where we previously took a snapshot of the sort of transmission tower right on the peak of the hill, and there you go. First one is worth $10,000, and it only took 6 minutes of work. The next one is available at the Palomino Beach, once again on the weekends, and this one is significantly longer, so you'll be watching this one on 2x speed, because I don't have enough energy to ramble through all of this. So very much similar to the last one really. There is a swimming section, followed by a cycling section, and then a running section. It does have to be said, the swimming section of this one and the running section I think might actually be slightly less long than the previous triathlon. Maybe not so much the swimming section, but the cycling section, however, is a long slog, as you'll see. Either way, the swimming bit for this one I actually found a bit easier at the start, although eventually I'd end up getting passed by a lot of people. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Again, I'm fairly certain the AI can swim quicker than you. The best way to get around it is to block them slightly. They can also push you a little bit as well. And so if you're swimming and someone's directly behind you, they can sort of push you a little bit, which is quite nice and can actually be fairly useful to take them up on that one. So this swimming section goes on for about 2 minutes or so, although you see that beach up there, and that's when we're going to end up abandoning the water in favour of going on to the bikes. So as I mentioned, this one starts in Palomino Creek and ends on the Las Venturas Strip. So this cycling section takes a long time, and in fact what you're going to get now is a cycling tour of the entirety of San Andreas essentially. You're now going to ride your bike through the countryside up towards the Panification, and then through San Fierro, through the port section, all the way up towards the Gant Bridge, cycle all the way over the Gant Bridge, cycle all the way through the Bonelands, and then eventually end up at the Las Venturas Sex Shop, I believe is where the drop point for the bike is. So this is an incredibly long cycling section. Now, while a cycling section is pretty tedious, the one thing it does give you the advantage of is, of course, CJ's cycling ability is far better than his ability to swim or his ability to run. So this section you can gain a very, very healthy lead, and indeed this triathlon, in all honesty, is probably easier than the previous two. However, as mentioned, it is much longer. The previous triathlon got done in just under 7 minutes. This one is twice the length, and I believe it's even twice the distance length as well. Very, very long time of riding this bike, but again, at least you get to have a nice little explore of San Fierro, and it would be useful if we didn't already have max cycling skill. Of course, the one good thing for this as well is it will heavily improve your stamina. While that won't matter too much, considering you're not really going to be competing in any triathlons after this, because there's only 2 of them, it's still definitely a useful skill to have in terms of just being able to run quicker and so on and so forth. It's always useful to be a little bit quicker than your rivals. But as you can see here, a nice sort of coast tour of San Fierro, driving through one of my very favourite cities in the entirety of the 3D era. Perhaps even my favourite city. Yeah, I'd actually go that far. I'd probably say I prefer the beautiful town or city of San Fierro to Vice City, because it's much easier to navigate. Make sure not to crash into that wall and fall off your bike, which is possible if you don't have full cycling skill. But as you can see, going all the way over the Gant Bridge. Of course, one thing to worth note is that there is no traffic during the triathlon, so there's nothing for the AI to get stuck on. It wouldn't really be too much of an issue for us, considering well, we're on a bike, although there's definitely a reason for that, and that's probably because during the running sections, the way to do this would be to just find an AI car to jump on board, and then just get that to drive you all the way to the finish, essentially. I should mention, actually, through the swimming sections, if you're really having difficulty for it, you can either use the cheat code or indeed just find one after the trying to remember what mission it is. The Mad Dog mission. There will be vortexes that spawn. Oh, sorry, Cutthroat Business. That's the name of the mission. After Cutthroat Businesses, vortexes will start spawning the hovercraft. You can actually use those for the swimming section, as long as you're very careful not to accidentally crush any of the other competitors. So if you are really struggling, you can go that route. That will make the swimming section a lot quicker. However, ultimately it's not really necessary, and it can be a little bit tricky to make sure it stays there and stays spawned in as the intro cutscene plays and all the rest of it. So yeah, maybe not so much worth it. As far as the sprinting sections, you can use a jetpack cheat, if we're going to speak about cheating, although actually getting a jetpack all the way there would probably be a little bit of an issue. But yes, you can actually use the jetpack, which is the way I believe I did it when I was very, very young and very, very cheat prone. Although apparently cheats might block 100% completion, although I haven't really got confirmation of that. Anyways, as you can see, we're going to cycle all the way around the motorway, all the way towards the welcome to Las Venturas sign. There it is. You can see why I sped this one up now, because it really is just a very, very long cycle tour. We've actually been on this bike for over 9 minutes now. I believe it's about a 10-minute bike ride, which is pretty impressive to be able to get across the entire state in about 10 minutes. But even still, you don't really want to sit through the entirety of that. And I do have to say, playing this, stick a podcast on or something while you're doing this. I mean, that's probably how most people, that's at least how I play games these days. I don't know, maybe I'm not normal, but I definitely like to have something watchable or something like that while I play the game. You might notice I abandoned bike straight there, which I shouldn't have done. I should have drove it all the way to the end of the checkpoint. However, I kind of forgot about that. So, once you're here, it is essentially a sprint race down the entirety of the strip. That should take about a minute and a half or so. Not so much to say about this one. Once again, infinite sprint is kind of necessary, because if not, then you'd run out of puff around pirates in men's pants, which wouldn't be ideal. You definitely do not want to be passed at the last minute on a 13-minute triathlon, especially considering your thumbs are probably bleeding right now. But either way, this one, as I said, probably easier, actually, just because of the cycling section, and there's less chance to fall off through the cycling section as well, because you're not going through the woods or anything like that. As you can see, it ends at the Four Dragons Hotel and Casino, and you get $20,000 for that triathlon, for $30,000 total in all of the triathlons. So that was a pretty fun change from all the killing and stuff, although kind of frustrating if you don't have all of your stats leveled up. Anyways, that's it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. Next time I'm going to finally do something that does count towards 100% completion, trucking. So join us for that. Until then, farewell.
Uptown, downtown, speeding all around. The naked 47 got the power and it's bound to move any mother that gets in my way. Just another power machine on the freeway. Riding with me, there's my MC homeboy. Knowing the rules ain't part of his program. Finding the right way around this map might be pretty hard cause he's fucked on crack. G, Grand Theft Auto.